Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking with Chuck Hayes, who is the co-host of USC Trojan Talk with Coach Harvey Hyde, and is also covers the LA Rams and LA Chargers for CBS Sports Radio. Now, he's been a part of the LA sports scene for over 3 decades, and I look forward to talking to him. We're going to be talking about NIL, the transfer portal, USC, the Riley era, and finally the NFL draft. So I hope you guys enjoy. And if you do, hit that like button. Have a great day. Adios. All right, so it's been a wild offseason for USC. What was your reaction to Lincoln Riley when he was announced as the head coach?
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting because of the fact that he already had one of the premier jobs in college football. It's unusual for a coach in a program, a blue blood, if you will, to make such a radical move. Because normally you have it going on where you're at. And he's had great success. Remember, he came in and worked for Coach Stoops. And then when Bob Stoops checked out, basically the program was handed to him. So he had a lot of great momentum going on.
Do you think, recently NIL and the transfer portal, some new additions to college football, do you think it's going to change the scape of college football where we'll see different programs popping up and becoming more dominant than in past years?
I think what it is that it's a day-to-day experience now. Ever since NIL was validated by the Supreme Court in a unanimous decision, it changed the landscape of college athletics. And I think if you look at it right now, especially with what's going on at USC, when the NFL expanded back in the 60s, when they added Atlanta and New Orleans, and that's a long time ago, how they used to stock the teams is that you would protect a certain amount of athletes, and then anyone who was not protected could be signed as a free agent. And then, of course, you had a draft class. So basically right now what you get in regards to the portal is that same unprotected, except the student athlete is in control. And so if you're a coach at a major college and you've previously recruited that athlete, you have a relationship with them. It makes it easier to fill needs where you're at in your particular school.
What was your reaction to a lot of SC stars like Jackson Dart and Keaton Slovis entering the transfer portal?
Frankly, I was quite disappointed. As an alum of USC, I always thought that it was a very special experience. And to give up on that, not knowing what was going to happen at the position, everything is always in college athletics, one play away. And Keaton Slovis experienced that. Jackson Dart experienced that. JT Daniels experienced that. And so the next man up concept really worked, especially at the quarterback position. It's the same thing at any other position. Whether you're an offensive lineman, you learn to play guard, center, tackle. Why? Because one of your teammates gets hurt, you got to slide in to get the best players on the field. So I was disappointed because I felt that they were having a great experience at USC off the field. I can't speak to that individually, but I know they're looking for playing time.
What are your thoughts on Lincoln Riley's coaching staff?
I think he went with coaches that you're familiar with. That's how most coaches go about it. You have to have a great recruiting staff, and so you have to be strong in certain areas of the country with your running back coach, your receiver coach, your inside linebacker coach. All those coaches fill a need. Not only can they do it in X and O's, but they have to create relationships with coaches, with 7-on-7 people, with the student athlete and their family. And I think it's difficult if you've never recruited a class as a staff together to know exactly where things stand. But I think they had a good opportunity in the course of this first time out to be able to see where they were going with that. They got an early start because of the fact that the USC season was not over. Dante Williams was coaching SC in the Cal game, that game that was postponed and then rescheduled after the UCLA debacle. And I think it gave them an opportunity to look at who they were recruiting at Oklahoma, move that over to USC, and fill in the blanks as to what they needed.
What do you think Caleb and Mario Williams will bring to the USC offense? You
Well,
also have Travis Dye there, so,
yeah,
and
no doubt.
Austin Jones.
I think when you talk about Caleb Williams and a receiver, you're talking about a comfort zone at any level. Anytime you have your best receiver with you, it makes everybody else around them better because they learn from them in their reps and practice, how he likes to deliver the football, how he likes spacing in regards to the field. That's all Lincoln Riley's offense. And when you add a veteran like Travis Dye and Austin Jones, who know how to compete at the Pac-12 level, it helps bring maturity to your younger players.
What do you think all around about the team? You've got, half transfer, half returning, and then some guys that we haven't seen play ever. So what do you think about the team?
Well, I think Lincoln Riley talked about how important it was for the group of people that stayed and went through spring football to be the torchbearer, if you will, for the group of youngsters that are coming in out of high school and then whatever portal players that they have. So you really want to teach people how to practice the way you practice. Now, the strength and conditioning program really puts that on blast. That's one thing that they preach. It's the time of day that they work out, the intensity that they bring, the position group. You know right where you stand in regards to that. And I think that's an important part of anybody coming in from the outside. It's like everyone going to an all-star camp. And once you get settled in and you know who your competition is, you know the level of practice and how hard people are going to push. Because a lot of times when you come out of high school, you're the best player there, and you maybe only have to play 60, 70%. But when you step into Division I college athletics, you got to compete not only in the weight room and conditioning, but also in the classroom. And then, of course, when you get into camp, you have to be aware of where you stand position-wise and what you have to do to make the team better.
Were you at the spring game?
I was at the spring game last
Nice.
Saturday. There was a nice crowd out there. I don't know if it was 32,000, but it was a good crowd.
Yeah.
And I think the energy that you felt in the Coliseum was a precursor to what was going to happen this season. It was a real football game. It wasn't a showcase, unlike a couple years past where these teams of Clay Helton's would be brought in and you would not know what you were going to get. This was a football game. Each quarterback, whether it was Miller Moss or Caleb Williams, basically got about 30 snaps each. It was a national televised activity. So thus there was a clock and Pac-12 officials, and it felt like a real football game.
So there's been a lot of speculation around the Blitnikoff Award winner, Jordan Addison from Pitt. He is rumored to soon be entering the transfer portal to come to USC. Now, what do you think about players, like that, just immediately flipping on a team, just especially right after spring ball?
Well, I think what happens is when you look at his quarterback leaving, and now Keaton Slovis coming in, perhaps they worked together and they had discussions and frank ones in regards to how things are. Players talk to players. They talk to other coaches, and family members get involved. And if they think there's an opportunity and they want a chance to go out and get a lot of attention, this is one of those things. USC is a very high-profile school. Pitt's got great football tradition, going back to the days of Dan Marino and Tony Dorsett, and even before that. So with Keaton Slovis there now, I'm sure there was a lot of conversation in regards to why he left SC. And then, of course, with the game on national television, that was an environment and basically a 2-hour commercial for USC football in the Pac-12 in Los Angeles.
Now the draft happened. The draft has been happening, and Drake London got selected at number 8. Do you think that was too high or too low, or do you think he's going to be an absolute steal?
Well, you have to remember that in the Falcon organization, Rich McKay is the president. Of course, his legacy goes back to the days of his father as the head coach at USC, and I know he probably loved Drake London and loved his competitiveness. The questions that I would have is, recovering from an injury like that, is this going to be a redshirt year for him in the NFL. Hopefully, he had a hamstring issue coming off of the combine where he was working to get better. And anytime you have a devastating injury, you cannot rush it back. There's no reason to rush back. Now the Falcons have said, hey, we are happy with the fact that we got who we want. Now it's you better take care of your investment and make sure he's 100% before anything else happens. I think that's the number one thing for him, is that he becomes completely healthy so he can be the player that he can showcase in the National Football League.
You also saw Drake Jackson go yesterday to the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm looking forward to watching him because I'm a Niners fan. But he and Talanoa Hufanga are back-to-back years that Trojans have been selected by the Niners. Hufanga had that great, probably one of the best plays of the postseason last year, where he returned the blocked punt for a touchdown to give the Niners, I believe, the lead, almost pretty much the win over the Packers. And what do you think Drake Jackson's going to be able to do for the Niners heading into the 2022 season?
Well, I have the opportunity. I see the NFL week in and week out covering the Rams and their teams that come into SoFi, as well as the Chargers in the AFC West. And I think what Drake Jackson needs is to be productive on every down. I think that's one of the things about being a pro. When you look at the level of talent and the tackles that you have to go against, you really have to become a student of the game. And knowing where you're going to play, whether you're going to have your hand in the ground or you're going to be standing up, and the scheme that's being presented, you have to play full out every down to be successful in the National Football League. And I think that's the question. You see the sparks, you see the intensity that he brings when he is locked in. And that was something that I know that SC fans wanted more of. And I'm sure Drake wanted more from himself. I think he's a prideful athlete. He had issues in regards to how they slimmed him down to play outside. He's dropping into coverage. San Francisco needs to determine where he is going to be on a down-by-down basis, because as a pass rusher, he has great skill sets. It's just a matter of him being able to handle the run and also be physical and also be tenacious in the pass rush game.
Now, last or 2 nights ago, we saw a massive shock. You probably saw it too, because the Rams were talking about this guy going at 105, but it was Cole Strange out of Chattanooga going to the Patriots on probably the weirdest trades we've ever seen. It went from the Niners to the Dolphins, to the Chiefs, to the New England Patriots, who drafted him. I think PFF had him projected around 90. He went 29. Now, were you shocked by this pick?
I think it's interesting. Having been inside recruiting rooms and seeing and hearing discussions on players, if there's a player that a team falls in love with and they believe that he fits their system and they have him high on the board, they don't care about anyone else's board. See, that's the thing about the National Football League. You have a 53-man roster to fill. And when you're looking at this player or this position and a need, John Ralston, the late John Ralston, that was the coach that was with the Denver Broncos, used to talk about building his team from the outside tackle in. And so when you get into that interior line and you look at what New England has, I'm sure they're evaluating him with other players that they've scouted. Remember, Nick Saban and Bill Belichick are very close. And if he has a question in regards to a player, especially from a college program, and maybe his personnel scouts have done their work on there, he may come back and say, hey, would you have recruited him out of high school? What was the difference? Where is he progressing? What is his ceiling? And I think that's a lot of times what people don't understand is that maybe if you're a number one pick, you're expected to come in and compete right away. But you might be also looking at 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road in regards to how he will mature and fit what's going on. And again, that's just all speculation based upon the fact that this is a coach that is the GM, de facto GM of the Patriots, and the coach. and they have a new offensive coordinator this year, and it will be interesting to see exactly this storyline, because I think that's one of those unique parts of the draft where there's a player that was taken too high. Remember, Tom Brady was taken late. Did anyone question that in regards to what happened? And, of course, his great success is a rarity as a 6th-round pick.
So is it around what you just said, around the same for the Chargers, who have been building their offensive line? They picked up another great piece of their offensive line in the first round, Zion Johnson for Boston College. And how do you think he's going to work around, with Rashawn Slater, who's been just a massive difference maker?
Yeah, I think, again, when you want offensive linemen, smart, tough, competitive, Boston College is a great place. You look at the number of players they've produced in the O-line, and that goes back to their philosophy and their position group. I think it's the same thing at Wisconsin and at Iowa. There are programs that develop players. USC has been a team that in the past has had great offensive linemen. Now it's been a trickle-down thing where the last 2 years you had Tucker go in, and he was a first-round pick. And it's just not been the numbers and the production that we've expected. So when a team goes to another place on the East Coast and they look at BC and they look at who they play against in the ACC, and their East Coast scouts are looking at him, and they've been probably having him tracked probably for the last 3 years, looking at, when they do their work on these players, when they get in and sign their national letters of intent, and then also through spring ball and then regular season. And, when I'm in the box at the Coliseum and I sit usually one row in front of the NFL scouts, every once in a while I'll check in and say, hey, are you guys looking for need? Are you looking for best player available? Or are you just doing your due diligence? Maybe ASU was in and they were looking at a player there, and then they're comparing him against SC's best players.
Yeah, so for the Rams, they had some late draft picks. They didn't get first or second round pick this year, but they did get Logan Bruss, a guard out of Wisconsin. Guard was one of their main focus points, and they got him at 104. And what are your thoughts on this pick?
Well, the Rams have to rebuild their offensive line. Andrew Whitworth has now retired. He was really one of the older players in the history of the game, 40 years old, and he played through a lot of injuries last year. And the Rams have the luxury of coming off a Super Bowl win. And whenever you win a Super Bowl, you have a little bit more length, if you will, to develop and do things, because your fan base has been inspired. They're fired up. You're the world champion until you're not the world champion. And I think that what Sean McVay is looking at is that they have to improve their running game. And that means they have to improve the offensive line. They had great success during the playoff stretch as to overcoming a lack of a run game. And Matthew Stafford, with the ability to distribute the football around, really helped that cause. Right from the start of their first preseason game, they had issues because of injuries. That was something that I was, wondering during the course of the year. How was this team going to be able to put teams away in the fourth quarter with not the ability to run the football? But they found their way to do that, and now they're the Super Bowl champs. So they're going to be retooling based upon the fact that they know that they had deficits in that position.
Now, for like a way too early prediction for the Trojans regular season. Now, do you think a lot of people have been saying, oh, we're going to put up like 70 against Rice? I think it could put up 60. I don't think quite 70. But what do you think about Rice? Do you think we'll put up 60?
Well, I never like to get into a guessing game with numbers, because you remember you want your first game of the year, you just want to get everybody off the bus and get into the right pathway. And then chasing numbers is something that you really don't want to see. You want to see your players execute your offense to the best of their ability. And if that means that you throw 6 touchdown passes, that's great. It means if you run for 4 and throw for 2, as long as you have that W in the column and know that the next week you're going to be going to Stanford, a Pac-12 opener, first time that Lincoln Riley will take this team on the road. I think you go in there and you do the best job possible. You have your defense and communication. What happens is in Sunday, after a game has been played, the coaches sit down and break the film down. You always hear them say, I have to wait until I look at it on film, and see the productivity and competitiveness of every player. 11 on offense, 11 on defense, 11 on special teams. And you see how you have progressed or regressed. And that's one of the things that they look at. It's very rare that they look at the scoreboard. They look at what plays they executed and said, hey, we could have broke this one. If he made this read, this was going to be a bigger play. Did we convert on third down? Did we have success? Did we prevent turnovers? Did we limit penalties? That was one of the things Saturday in the Coliseum. There were only 2 penalties, and one of them was on that targeting call that was a bogus call that ultimately I believe was overturned. But that was one of those that you would say, hey, we only had 1 penalty in the spring game. That meant we made sure that we got the players in the right places, that the clock, we ran a play before the time clock expired, something that they've been very sloppy in over the last several years.
USC had a very, very interesting 2021, well, technically 2022 class. We had Damani Jackson, we had Raleek Brown out of, modern day, and then we had some great, at the end of the season, we picked up some great guys who are going to be in the 2023 class, like Malachi Nelson. Do you think the recruiting around USC is going to change now that it's shifted to Lincoln Riley?
I think what you see is that they're a lot more aggressive, and a lot more players are having official visits and unofficial visits, and that will continue. They had a good amount of players at the spring game. Really, it was a national recruiting opportunity because of national television. And I think what happens is everyone is interested to see what's going to go down. And I think with that said, the energy – it was very disappointing at the end of the Clay Helton deal because everybody was not having a great time on Saturday. Anything you know about USC fans, they like to work hard during the week and then come to the stadium, have a great time, and enjoy it until they get their another opportunity. And that was not happening. There was a negative vibe. People were leaving. You heard a lot of booing. And frankly, when the student body, you lose the student body, that's a sign that your program is in trouble.
All right, so final NFL question for you. Who do you think got the biggest win, biggest steal, or biggest trade win in the NFL draft this year?
Well, again, I think the Chargers would say, using their picks when they traded away, they got Khalil Mack. I think that was a player to be looked at, in regards to you put him with Bosa and what goes on. I was shocked that Von Miller left the Rams to go to the Buffalo Bills. I thought that was a huge loss for the Rams because of the fact that he was an inspirational player on that team and gave them an energy that was something that to be looked at. So it's kind of interesting in the same building. And I was at the Chargers draft party on Thursday night, and you can see the optimism in regards to how their energy level is and expectations. They are ready. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, they're really a team that's on the rise in Los Angeles, and they're converting fans literally a day at a time. It's hard when the people that you share the building with have won the Super Bowl. The Rams' idea of marketing right now is bringing their Super Bowl trophy around to different areas in Southern California, much like the Stanley Cup. The Chargers are just having to grind it out. So from that standpoint in Los Angeles, I think the Khalil Mack move was better than a draft pick that they could have made because they don't need a quarterback. They don't need receivers. They need an impact on defense.
All right. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, Chuck.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I want to thank you. And Coach Hyde gives you his best. He's currently a little bit overscheduled right now, so I'm sure down the road that there'll be a chance to revisit. But anytime that we can be of assistance here in Southern California and give you insights, we'll be glad to talk with you. Have a great day. Yes.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Chuck Hayes. I have to say thank you to Chuck for, taking time out of your day and allowing me to interview you. And I got so much insight, and my viewers got so much insight. So, ladies and gentlemen, show them some love in the comments. Show them some love by hitting the like button. Have a great day. Adios.